114 to 104, the Raptors respond to a furious third quarter comeback from the Washington Wizards and are now one game away from being 500 on the season. This is Raptors Today. Akil Augustine, Sherman Hamilton, Paul Jones. Let's talk about it. That third quarter got a little scary there. Porzingis and Corey Kispert got hot. Raps turned the ball a little bit over a little bit. But let's talk about what your impressions were, Jonesy, starting with you, on how they responded to a little bit of turbulence on that flight.
I thought that I'm going to go back to the first quarter, and that's what's that, 9 out of 10 now for Toronto at home, or 8 out of 9. They've done a terrific job in first quarters. We always harp on the fact that they don't get a good start.
Yep.
And here they were with another first quarter with 30-plus points, shooting over 50%, and that kind of set the tone. They built up a really good lead in that first half because of their play, and they had a cushion. And it's one of the hardest things to do, play with a big lead. Human nature and complacency can set in. The other team gets a little bit more upset and starts to play a little harder. And I thought Toronto responded. And the response that I liked was at the start of the fourth quarter, when Nick Nurse went with what he usually does, 1 starter and 4 bench players to buy his starters some rest. And a lot of people were very critical in Milwaukee when Brook Lopez got going and that game seemed to turn then. But yesterday, it could have turned the same way. Yet those guys went into the quarter, started the quarter with a 3-point lead, and the response was they had the lead back up to 10 halfway through the quarter when Nick Nurse decided to put his starters back in. So I liked the response. It was one quarter, one bad quarter, but fortunately it didn't hurt them because of what they'd done before.
Close out.
Yeah, well, Nick Nurse trusted that second unit, with OG and Scotty on the floor to kind of stem the tide and did a good job. They didn't force Nick to bring Fred back in, as you said, didn't force him to bring Pascal in before their time was ready to come back. And I think it's one of those things going towards the playoffs or the play-in, wherever they end up, it's kind of building things on the way there, understanding you're going to need these guys. If you get into the playoffs and the play-in, you're going to need these guys to play significant roles during the stretch. So getting them to be out there and kind of withstand that push that the Wizards had was phenomenal. And I think, there were some good performances in that game. Right? OG was phenomenal.
OG was terrific,
I mean, Fred was really good. It was good to see Scotty back. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but typical Scotty line with, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. I just thought it was a good collective effort. And then the bench was good. Dalton was good. Boucher was good.
I really like Jeff Doughton's game.
Yeah, really too. And it was good to see
game.
Precious out there doing some things and getting back into the flow. So it was an overall good game. And people are going to say it was way too challenging for the Raptors, for a Washington Wizards team that is minus Bradley Beal, that is minus Kyle Kuzma. It doesn't matter. It's still an NBA team. And when they made the push, the Raptors bent, but they didn't break, and they were able to secure the win.
To speak quickly to Washington, Corey Kispert's become a really reliable 3-point shooter. Like, he has found his niche, his role, his area in the league, and he's a guy that can hurt you. He's a guy that can hurt you from beyond the arc.
Probably a lot more comfortable and easier to get those shots, too, without Beal and Kuzma, who take up so much of that offense. Speaking of getting up shots, 21 shots for OG Anunoby, equaling 29 points, shot above 50%. Sherman, did you like the aggressiveness you're seeing out of OG? Because 21 shots, that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely enjoyed that. Listen, OG is a very efficient shooter.
Yes.
But he's getting, usually you'll see like 8 shots or 9 shots, but he'll be 6 of 9, 5 of 8. I like the fact that OG got it going early, and this is what I really appreciate about this team. They will feed the hot
fire,
hand
regardless.
They don't care how many times they will give that ball to that guy. And he had 18 points in the first quarter, and OG had it going, and why not? Fred's a smart point guard. This team is a smart team. OG's got it going. If it ain't broke, don't break it. Yeah. And OG kept it going in that first quarter. Then Fred stepped in the second quarter. So I'm a fan of OG taking 21 shots in a game like that when he has it rolling. But that's not his norm.
Yes.
So we can live with that.
To Sherm's point, I thought we had Pascal on the post game on the radio, and I don't think he scored in the first quarter or the first few minutes of the quarter anyway. And we asked him about OG getting going. He said, why not? And he talked exactly about that. When a guy has it going, that's who we look for. And it was interesting how Pascal kind of picked things up later in the game, later in the second quarter, in the second half. He started to round into form. But, you know, a guy like OG can – everybody looks at Pascal and Fred as the main guys, rightfully so. But don't sleep on a guy like OG. Don't sleep on a Jakob Poeltl. All of a sudden, Scotty gets going. There are so, and that's maybe the vexing or the frustrating thing about this team. They have so much potential, and it's just it goes unfulfilled at times. Why is this? People look, and I talk to folks around the league. They're like, "Why is that team ninth? Yeah. They should be better than ninth." And circumstances.
On paper, you would think.
Yeah, circumstances have them where they are, but I still think they're a very dangerous team.
All right, well, still some housekeeping to take care of as you got Scotty Barnes back, you got Precious back, but we still don't know about Will Barton, so we hand it off to Savannah Hamilton.
Thanks, Akil. The Raptors had a really solid win against the Washington Wizards, and that's partially due to the fact that, well, Scotty Barnes was available. Precious was also available tonight after coming back from injuries there. Precious was on a minute restriction with his hamstring kind of being out. He missed 2 games prior, and I did talk to him before asking what his own expectations were, and he said that he has been locked into practice. He knew that he wasn't going to be out for a long time, but he does want to contribute to the fact that the team is currently battling to get higher in the play-in standings in that regard. And then when it comes to Scotty, I mean, his play just speaks for itself, starting with that, was it 360 dunk in the first quarter? And then you have to look at Will Barton, okay? So he went out at the end of the first quarter with that left ankle sprain, to be determined when he's going to come back. He did not return for the rest of the game, so they're missing that backup point guard in this position now. So we'll see what brings, see what comes in the future. Back to you, Akil.
13-5-6 for Scotty Barnes, but most importantly, looking forward, you want to have a healthy Scotty. He's such an important part of what this team does. He's kind of the swing state, depending on, getting to initiate that offense in the fourth quarter. Had a couple good starts. Jonesy, your thoughts on Scotty Barnes coming into form here at the end of the year?
I like what the young man's game has, and he has a way of picking out what is needed, choosing the right tool. His passing, there's a cross-court look. I love the fact that he's not afraid to walk anybody into the lane and score it. And it was interesting, that 360 dunk, from our vantage point, it looked like he looked back at the defense like, are you coming to get this? And he went airborne and all of a sudden realized, I need to turn around to get this thing in the hole. But I think Scotty has so many things to offer. And he's the Swiss Army knife for Nick Nurse. He can be used so many ways at the offensive end, and defensively, his length, his lateral quickness, his ability to block shots, to play off the ball, to deny, to guard like a Trae Young should they see him, a smaller, quicker guy. Like I said, he's the Swiss Army knife for Nick Nurse at both ends of the floor.
You could argue in that game against Milwaukee, if Scotty was on the floor to begin the fourth quarter as a ball handler, playmaker, while Brook Lopez is going nuts, Scotty could do some things to help his team kind of stem that tide. And he did it against the Wizards.
Yep.
He helped them out in that fourth quarter in terms of being a playmaker. So, the kid has a great upside. His ceiling is so high. And it's good that he's coming back when he is, so he's getting 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 games to play and get his rhythm back for the playoffs. So, and his impact, when he's on the floor, you find that Pascal, Fred, they put so much pressure on the defense that Scotty, OG, third option, fourth option, becomes as good as a first option when he gets in those situations off the attack. So I just enjoy his skill set, and he can impact the game on so many levels.
All right, enough from us. Let's check in with the players.
So how do you feel about your team's performance today and the type of momentum that you guys are building in this late stretch?
We came out strong. We continued it for the whole first half. Then we lost some urgency in the third quarter. It slipped up a little bit, but we picked it up and finished strong. So that's how games go. Game of runs. Other team's not going to lay down. They're going to keep fighting. So I'm glad we finished it off, and then just look forward to the next game now.
What allowed you to have the type of first quarter, or first 6 minutes even, that you had?
Just teammates passing the ball to me. I'm open and just shooting with confidence.
How do you've looked very comfortable from the mid-range in the last few games. How do you balance working on that shot and getting those shots up in the game with sort of what the team generally tries to do with the shot profile to make it?
Definitely still try to, they like to get to the rim, kick out and stuff. But just that's the shot that's usually there, depending on usually the paint is usually clogged up a little bit. So usually that's the shot that's there. So that's what they're gonna give us. Just work on it every day.
Are you feeling more comfortable with it right now? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
You mentioned the third quarter. You were out there with Scotty and the three reserves to start the fourth. How important was that stretch in terms of getting that?
It was definitely very important. We just wanted to come out, get stops, and then run the other way. Scotty had a big @1. Jeff had a big 3. Chris was everywhere. Who else was out there? Christian. Yeah, Christian was everywhere too, getting steals, getting stops. So everyone just played great, played with a lot of urgency, and we were able to grow the lead.
Great win tonight. What did you see out there and the energy that the team brought?
I think we played hard. I think we followed the schemes. Obviously, this game was important for us. But we're also playing some great brand of basketball right now, so hopefully they can keep going. But I think the team is locked in and we know what we're fighting for, and we're trying to reach the goals which is making the playoffs.
Obviously, this part of the season last year, you were playing some prime basketball yourself, and it seems like it's trending again this way. How are you feeling out there?
Good. Obviously, I'm finding my ways. Different position, different schemes and all, but like I said, I'm starting to figure it out how to play with these guys, and just not being a liability on defense, I think, is the biggest thing for me right now.
And then in terms of your next matchup against the Miami Heat and Kyle Lowry, how big is that one to get the job done there?
Oh, we need a win, obviously, but they're a good team. But I think that if we play together like we played today and follow the scheme, we could definitely get a win.
So obviously a solid win tonight. What did you see out there?
I think we started the game really focused, came out hot, especially OG and Fred in the first half. We're putting a lot of pressure on them for us. Then we, after the struggles a little bit in the third, we brought it home safely.
What's it like to play against your former teammate and university teammate, DeLon?
It's always fun to play against DeLon. Him and Kuz. Unfortunately, Kuz was sitting out tonight, but those guys you've known for so long. It's always fun to go up against them. And there's a little bit more on the line, some bragging rights, stuff like that.
And then a bit of a Raptors reunion because next is Kyle Lowry and the Miami Heat. And they're obviously a very tough team when it comes to competing against the Raptors. So how was your approach to that game?
I think we keep going with what we've been doing well. We've really found our flow lately. It's just about eliminating those stretches throughout games where we struggle, and we seem to have a little, or they seem to have a little run, and we're having a hard time and putting a stop to that. So getting our heads back in the game in situations like that, really focusing back in, and I think.
All right, in other Raptors news, the 905 close out their regular season schedule with a win against the Greensboro Swarm, bringing their final tally to 16-16. But unfortunately, no playoff spot for the 905. But that does mean now that Coach Nurse has a full complement of 905/Raptor players to play. We're talking about Banton, Koloko, Wieskamp, Ron Harper Jr., and, of course, fan favorite Jeff Doughton, Sherman. You think we're going to see a shortened bench, kind of get closer to that playoff rotation, or are these guys going to get a chance to kind of contribute and show what they got before the season closes out?
Well, I think the rest of the games are important for the Raptors, so Nick Nurse is going to coach to win, and if those guys fit in any scenario, he'll put them in. But it's also practice time for these guys. The main guys aren't going to practice much at this time of the year, but those guys can continue to work out and continue to build on their game. But we saw Koloko in the game yesterday. Playing important minutes. We saw Doughton in the game playing some important minutes. Harper Jr. got out there and he got some minutes. So guys are going to get some minutes if there are games like this. But Nick Nurse has shown he's not afraid to say, hey, you haven't played in a while? Get in there and see what you can do. And they've got to be prepared for those opportunities.
Yeah, I agree with Sherman that it's your loyalty is to winning.
Yes.
And the Raptors do have a great track record in development, but sometimes that development comes away from the court when the lights are down. And what you see on the court is the result of that. And I look at a kid like Jeff Doughton, who's been terrific all year. He really has. And I think he has really acquired the trust of Nick Nurse in certain situations. He's one of those guys, as a bench guy, kind of like a Chris Boucher. You know what you're going to get when you put him in there. And, the other guys, situational players, maybe specialists, a Wieskamp, people like that. But I think Nick is more honed in on playoffs now. And if those guys fit, great. If not, keep working out and stay ready because you never know when you're going to be needed.
Very true. Now, in some sad NBA news, Raptor-related, Eric Montross, his family came out with a statement saying that the former Raptor big man's currently been diagnosed with cancer, and we send our thoughts and prayers out to him and his family. Any memories of Montross, a former baseball player that I didn't know, drafted something like 1,500th in some round for the Chicago Cubs?
Hey man, when you're that big and you can do stuff like that, anybody will take you. I remember when he was here. What I remember most about Eric Montross, because at that time, guys came from big programs, right? He was a Carolina guy. He was a Dean Smith guy.
Yep.
And those programs got most of the notoriety and attention on the national stage. I remember him being kind of a classic big man in terms of the way he played, like that on the inside, jump hook, could step out, make a mid-range jumper. But I remember him off the court more than anything else. Kind of a quiet, gentle guy, good teammate, always had time for the media. He understood. We always say in the media, he gets it. Eric Montross got it. He understood that. He understood the media, the way it fit into the whole puzzle around the NBA. Really respectful guy and always had terrific interactions with him. Whether I had a microphone in my hand or I was, sitting on the bench or in a locker room talking to him, really professional and a nice guy.
Yeah, I never met him. I was still playing overseas when he was here. But, just from a human perspective and a man, it's tough. I mean, he's a young man still.
Yeah, still 51.
You know what I mean? And you feel it for his family and you feel it for him. And you can do nothing but wish him the best, send the prayers his way, good energy, and hope he's able to get through this to the other side. So, if I'm going to assume this, but pretty much everybody on this panel has been touched by cancer in some way, shape, or form. So, and we know how difficult it can be. So, just want to send this guy all the positive energy we can right now.
Yeah, big shouts out to the former number 9 overall pick, Eric Montross. Right now, we hand you off to the head coach of your Toronto Raptors, Nick Nurse.
How have you seen the play-in tournament change this part of the season over the past couple years?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that I don't know if there's been a great deal of change. I think that you obviously got a lot more teams still fighting, to stay alive, right, with the 2 extra spots there, and especially in the West, you got a whole bunch of teams fighting there. So I guess that's probably the only thing. I mean, who knows if it wouldn't be probably look as similar, people fighting for 8, right? There'd still be a couple people right in there fighting for 8, 9, 10, probably 3 teams anyway. So I don't really have a good answer for you on that. Sorry. You happy with Pascal's minutes tonight, Lindsay? Just checking. You are?
I'm good.
Shaved a few off there?
Yeah,
okay. Okay. Thank you. All right.
How do you feel about where your team is at right now? You've won 5 of the last 7, and just how everyone's playing.
Well, yeah, I feel okay. I mean, listen, I'm most concerned that we can get healthier. Again, it seems like, we got another guy at the same position, 2 guys out, at the same position with Gary and now Will with a sprained ankle. I think that we need to get our guys together, and certainly there's been some moments of like really, really good basketball, 5 out of 7, and some stretches where we look, like we really got it kind of clicking at both ends, where we're making them take tough shots and we're moving and finding open shots at the other end, and that's really, if we're going to do that, then we're going to have a great chance, right? And I think that we also are a little bit more versatile. With Yak, I think we can look differently defensively. He's certainly a They're a great defensive rebounder, but then we go in, they go a little small on us. We go small and match up and be able to get to some other defenses and things like that. So, we're just going to keep pushing. We got a nice little stretch of games here to continue to try to get a little bit better before we go on.
Looking ahead for the Toronto Raptors now, it's a Tuesday night date with the Miami Heat. Probably the last meaningful home game this year before the playoffs, right? We're not ruling out the playoffs, but regular season-wise for this Raptors group, and you're playing a team that, is right in that picture for the play-in situation.
You don't think next Sunday against Milwaukee might mean something?
I don't know who's going to be playing for Milwaukee, right?
True.
I don't know if they're going to take the foot off the gas at that point, knowing that they've kind of locked themselves into a positive situation playoff-wise. But the real question is here, how important is this game knowing the larger context of the play-in scenario? Jonesy, I'll start with you.
It's huge because you could end up playing these guys in 10 days in a play-in situation. Miami and Brooklyn going back and forth at that 6-7 spot. The Raptors trying to get to 8 in front of Atlanta. What if it's Miami, Toronto, 7-8?
Exactly.
This is what you have. Or what if Toronto's, in 9 and they beat the person in 10 and Miami's in 7 and they lose to the guy in 8? You got him again. So I just think it's important. And again, it's also about you. You're trying to consolidate everything moving forward with the playoffs on the horizon.
Play that style of ball you want to play.
Get things down. Get your stuff in line. Especially with the Raptors. We've seen breakdowns occasionally this year where, something happens defensively and two guys look at each other, and you can't have those. You're getting into a time period where those things need to be fixed, and what better team to try and fix it against or to play against than Miami. It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out special.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah, I just think they've just got to focus on what they've got to do. Home or road, they've got to continue to build and get better as they move forward. And Miami's going to be a good challenge for them at this juncture of the season. So, this team, and we do this, we look at what's happening around the position, the play-in. Are they going to be an 8 seed? Who are they going to, we look at all of that. But for them, it's just that next team on the schedule.
Yeah.
Who's in front of them?
It's about locking in on that next game and taking care of business, regardless of where it is. And it just happens to be Miami who's in the situation that they're in as well.
And you know what you're going to get?
What?
Eric Spoelstra loves to play the zone against the Raptors.
I was going to get into the specifics. I was saying, let's get into the weeds here.
Yeah, for some reason, Toronto doesn't always shoot the ball well, and it seems like he goes long stretches sitting in the zone, like the high school team, and they're hustling and they're shuffling and they're closing out, and they don't just give you 1 or 2 looks. If you don't score or you're not successful, they got that football mentality. We're going to do it till you stop it or till you prove that it doesn't work anymore. So, to Sherm's point about locking in, you're going to see that. You're going to see that in the playoffs. Teams will throw, a zone at you, especially if they see that, hey, these guys used it and it worked.
Sherm, some terms from you in terms of what you need to give or get out of this Miami team to get a W?
Well, first of all, they have to continue their starts at home. That first quarter is going to be important in terms of establishing who's going to really take control of the game in the beginning. Also, Miami's not a team that wants to get up and down in transition.
No.
And the Raptors are a team that wants to get up and down in transition. So they got to impose that, I feel, on the Miami Heat. You might not turn them over as much, but you got a defensive rebound and get that ball out in transition and make sure you force them to have to guard you. And then with this Miami team, you've got to execute late-game situations if it's close, because they have a guy in Jimmy Butler who's a problem.
He thrives in those.
Yeah, and you've got to be able to execute late game if it's a close game. So there are going to be some challenges that the Raptors are going to have to meet. But, with almost a full roster, missing Gary Trent and obviously hoping that Will Barton isn't too badly injured, they've got a lot of weapons at their disposal that they have to really start to kind of wind up to get to this playing situation. So it'll be interesting, but that start is going to be crucial again.
All right, looking for the Toronto Raptors to push the pace Tuesday night, 7:30 tip against the Miami Heat, aforementioned. Sportsnet 590, the radio call, but TSN's got you on TV. That does it for myself, Sherman Paul Jones. We thank you for watching. We'll see you later in the week.